Welcome to the TroopHR Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Bradley. Today we're going to walk you through a minisode. Just a few minutes and one story. But one thing that packs a punch, not because it's loud or flashy, but because it's quietly revolutionary. Today we're going to talk about Lillian Gilbreth, a name that might not ring a bell, but by the end of this episode, I think you'll agree that she belongs in every conversation about leadership, innovation, and the future of work. So let's set the scene. The year is 1910. The workplace is changing rapidly. Factories are buzzing. Assembly lines are now the gold standard of productivity, and industrial efficiency is the measure of success. It's a world built for machines, and workers are expected to keep up. In this era, the idea of considering how work feels emotionally, psychologically, and even physically wasn't just overlooked, it was nearly unthinkable. And that's where Lillian comes in. Born in 1878, Lillian Gilbreth grew up with a love of literature and a passion for learning. She went on to earn not one, but multiple degrees, eventually becoming one of the first women in America to receive a PhD in applied psychology. But it wasn't just what she studied, it's what she applied that changed everything. Together with her and her husband, Frank Gilbreth, Lillian became a pioneer in what's known as industrial organizational psychology, or IO psychology. You might recognize the phrase time and motion studies, an approach to improving efficiency by analyzing how tasks are performed. It was a breakthrough at the time, and Frank often gets the credit for the engineering side of it, but Lillian, she brought the heart. While Frank focused on process, Lillian focused on people. She asked questions that were ahead of her time. Does this task make sense from my worker's point of view? Is this movement physically sustainable? Can we design work to reduce fatigue, prevent injury, and improve satisfaction? Today we'd call that ergonomics, but back then it was radical. And then life shifted. In 1924, Frank died unexpectedly, and Lillian, now a widowed mother of 12. Yes, that's right, 12. Was left to raise a family on her own and continue their business. It would have been understandable, even expected, for her to step back. Lillian took over the consulting firm that she had shared with her husband, and not just to keep it afloat, but she grew it. She consulted with companies and governments and helped design kitchens and hospitals and even advised on wartime production methods during World War II. She brought empathy into efficiency, humanity into management, and innovation into the everyday. Now, here's where things get really interesting for us in the HR world. Lillian wasn't just a scientist or a mother or a businesswoman. She was in many ways the first person to blend human psychology with workplace systems at scale. She advocated for thoughtful work environments before employee experience was even a phrase. She believed that improving processes should never come at the cost of the person doing the work, that productivity should serve people and not the other way around. Let that sink in. Some of her ideas are things that we take for granted now, like the adjustable workstations, step-saving layouts, and simplified training processes. But beneath all of the innovation was a simple, powerful belief that good design is inclusive. And long before work-life balance became a buzzword, she was living it, navigating motherhood, business, and leadership on her own terms. And still, her name isn't always remembered, but her legacy, it's everywhere. So here's the takeaway, and I say especially to my fellow HR leaders. In a world racing towards faster technology, AI, and automation, Lillian reminds us to pause and ask, what's the human impact? As we design systems, policies and workplaces, are we designing for efficiency or for empathy? Or maybe just a little bit of both? Because great leadership, as Lillian showed us, isn't just about finding faster ways. It's about building better ones. Thank you for joining us today in this minisode of the TroopHR Podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode of the TroopHR Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, we encourage you to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating. If you would like to learn more about our community, please visit TroopHR.com. In the meantime, keep living the dream.